Hi, this is Jason from Horrific Nightmares, and it's time for another positive spin. Now, the film we're going to be talking about today, the director of this film is pretty much hated by a lot of people. Now, he had a couple really well received films when he first came around, and people seem to think that every other entry into his catalog has been total crap. I'm not one of those people, but have you guessed it yet? It is M. Night Shyamalan. And today we're going to be talking about Lady in the Water. Now, since I've gotten a little bit better of a handle on what we're doing here, I'm going to explain my relationship to the film, first of all, and then get into what I really enjoyed about the film. Now, I rented Lady in the Water when it first came out because I liked Signs, Unbreakable, and I can't remember whether this came out first or The Village came out first. But this seemed to start the downward trend of people who are saying that he sucks now. As I said before, I don't agree. But, that's been the general opinion. Now, Lady in the Water, as I said, I rented when it first came out, and I went out and bought it. I can't remember where I got it, which is unusual because I usually have a pretty good memory of where I got things. But according to Joe, this was one of the first editions that came out that had the lenticular slipcover. You're going to be seeing the same thing, of course, from Joe. But let me just say I remember liking the film when I first watched it, but I didn't remember that much about it. I remember it being, general things like a fairy tale. I've always liked Giamatti, Paul Giamatti. I've always liked his acting, and there was no difference in this one. But generally speaking, I remembered a few scenes, and that's about it. So, Joe and I watched this, of course, and gave it another shot. He kind of had the same sort of feeling as I did, only I think he remembered maybe a little bit less than I did. But I think this film is brilliant. I liked it when I first saw it. I liked it so much that I went out and I bought the DVD. And I like it just as much, if not more now. So, let's put a positive spin on this and see if we can break down not why people hate it, but why I like it so much. Okay, in the beginning of the film, you get a story that is told through, it's kind of like almost like Aztec animation. And I really thought that was cool. This being a horror fairy tale, and it's considered a horror fairy tale, but it's very light on the horror, I will say that. More of a dark fairy tale, almost like, and I remember Joe telling me this was almost like Grimm's fairy tales in a way, and I agree with that. Now, as I said before, I am a Paul Giamatti fan. I like him. I've liked him in almost everything he's done that I've seen, and I think he is brilliant in this film. I love the hotel setting. And I seem to have remembered that it was only like a 2-story hotel, but this is actually a bigger hotel. It's more stories than that. And it just, I guess, amplified my memory and why I like the hotel setting so much. The characters in this film, and I can see why maybe this may be a drawback for a lot of people, but it's not for me because I like his films. But his characters are very comic book-like. I mean, you have a guy who is working out half of his body, played by Freddie Hernandez. By the way, this has a great cast. This has Bryce Dallas Howard, Freddie Hernandez, M. Night Shyamalan is one of the better parts in this film, and he's usually not. He usually doesn't have as big of a role as he does, and I really liked the role he had. Now, as I said, they're very comic book like. The guy's working out half of his body, so he's got this one huge bicep and leg and abs and everything, and the other one is just like normal, which is kind of silly in a way, but I don't know. I just like the characters. And a lot of his movies have those over amplified type characters in them. Now, I like when they were telling the story about the Narfs and the Scrunts and the Tartutic. See if I can pronounce that correctly. Tartutic, I believe it is. It seems unreal. And he has looked at the Paul Giamatti character as being crazy for believing it. But I think what that does is it allows the viewer to have some kind of belief in this really fairy tale-ish and far-fetched story. I really like that about the film. The story is incredibly well put together. And from what I can gather, this was a fairy tale that he told his children at bedtime. And they kept asking questions, so the story kept getting more and more involved. And I thought that was pretty cool because I did watch some of the special features at the end. And I remember watching them beforehand because I remember the story just being really, really cool. There are a lot of really powerful messages about destiny and change in this film, and I think that they really resonate today. Probably more so than they did back then. And like I said, I've always liked this film, but I think that made me like it a little bit more because I was able to infer a little bit more of what was going on in today's society to the actual film itself. What's weird in this film, and most people complain about certain movies being the characters are underdeveloped. There are a lot of characters in this film, and they are developed really well. And for me, that's a hard thing to do because it's hard to develop a few characters in a film, much less 10 the 10 plus characters that they have to develop in this film. And I think he did a really good job doing that. And to me, it's just a magical, beautifully done film. Now, as I said before, it's very light on the horror, but there is horror in it. Um, I don't know. I really like this film. I think it's a fantastic film. I never understood the hate for it. It is different. I mean, this film I could see being very divisive, but it seems like it's just universally hated. And a lot of people mention this when they mention his career going down the toilet. So I don't know. I don't know. I love this movie. I think it's really, really good. One of the things I also liked, and I'm not going to say, whenever I watch a movie, I also make a list of dislikes. And one of the things that I wasn't so keen on, and I'm not going to do this for everyone, but I feel like I should mention it, is the CGI is of its time, and it doesn't look great as it does today. Now, that's good and bad. And I think he was smart enough because I'm going to try not to spoil anything, but at the very end, there is a part where something really big happens. And it's looked at from underwater. And I think they did that because they knew that they were working with CGI that was a little less than perfect. And I think that was a very clever way to kind of hide what could have been a wonky sort of exchange, if you understand what I'm saying. I thought that was very clever. Now, some of the other CGI in it, not that great, but like I said, it's of its time, and I give it a pass. It never took me out of the film. Once again, Paul Giamatti was great in this, and I really don't understand the hate for this film. I understand maybe it not being everyone's cup of tea, but saying that this is where his career went down the toilet. Everybody says they want originality in horror films, and slashers are a dime a dozen, and monster movies need to be more creative, and blah, blah, blah. He makes very creative films. And I don't understand why I don't know, maybe it's just not everybody's cup of tea. I don't know. I just find it ironic that everybody wants something new, and then when it's given to them, they don't care for it, or they have so many bad things to say. That's just me. And this has been my positive spin on Lady in the Water. Check it out or don't. It was worth it for me to rewatch it. It was worth it for Joe to rewatch it. And I just think it's great. If you like what you see in here, hit that like button and subscribe. And until next time, peace.